Over 4,000 years ago, in the fertile lands of ancient Mesopotamia, tales began to circulate about a hero king named Gilgamesh. These tales, carved onto clay tablets in cuneiform script, form the world's oldest known epic poem. Gilgamesh was said to be the mighty king of Uruk, a walled city in Sumer, in what is now southern Iraq. Part god and part man, he undertook perilous adventures and even sought the secret of eternal life. Long forgotten under the sands of time, his story re-emerged in the modern era when archaeologists unearthed fragments of the epic in the 19th century. Today, the Epic of Gilgamesh is celebrated as a literary masterpiece and an invaluable window into early human civilization, mythology, and the quest for meaning. Scholars generally agree that behind the legends there was indeed a historical Gilgamesh, a Sumerian king who likely ruled Uruk in the early 3rd millennium BC. The Sumerian king list, an ancient record of kings, names Gilgamesh, son of Lugalbanda, as a ruler of Uruk after a great flood, and assigns him a reign of 126 years, a mythical exaggeration. If he lived, modern estimates place his reign somewhere between 2,800 and 2,500 BCE, during Mesopotamia's early dynastic period. An inscription excavated at Ur, southern Iraq, even bears his name, reading, "Gilgamesh is the one whom Utu has selected," suggesting that people of his era revered him. Ancient sources credit Gilgamesh with great deeds as a builder king. Notably, an inscription known as the Tumul inscription praises him for restoring temples and fortifications. It even credits Gilgamesh with building the monumental walls of Uruk. These mighty city walls, some of their ruins still visible today, were legendary in their own right, said to be over 9 kilometers in circumference, protecting Uruk's people and temples. Such feats hint that Gilgamesh's memory endured as that of a culture hero who brought urban civility and divine favor to his city. Importantly, Gilgamesh's timeline overlaps with other figures who are historically attested. He is linked in legend with Enmebaragesi of Kish, an enemy king mentioned as the father of one of Gilgamesh's adversaries. Incredibly, artifacts bearing Enmebaragesi's name, dated to around 2600 BCE, have been found by archaeologists, lending credence to Gilgamesh's historicity. In other words, since we know Enmebaragesi was real, it strengthens the likelihood that the Gilgamesh who warred against his dynasty was also real, yet separating the man from the myth is challenging. As the Assyriologist Andrew George cautioned, Gilgamesh, the epic hero, is a highly embellished figure, a literary character onto whom many legends were attached, much as King Arthur is in British lore. We have no contemporary royal annals or definitive burial for Gilgamesh. One Mesopotamian legend claims the grieving people of Uruk buried their king under the Euphrates River itself, diverting the river's flow to lay him to rest. Intriguingly, in 2003, a team of archaeologists using magnetometers in Iraq detected a large rectangular formation deep beneath an ancient riverbed, possibly a buried mausoleum. This site lay where the now dry Euphrates once ran, matching the epic's description of Gilgamesh's uncommon burial under the river. However, due to unrest in the region, the area could not be fully excavated, and the true nature of the structure remains unconfirmed. The historical Gilgamesh thus straddles the line between fact and folklore, remembered as a great king of Uruk, later deified and immortalized by storytellers, even as the precise details of his life are lost to time. In Mesopotamia, revered kings often became divine ancestors, and Gilgamesh was no exception. Within a few centuries of his reign, Gilgamesh came to be worshipped as a minor god, a protective ancestral spirit and judge of the dead. During the 3rd dynasty of Ur, circa 2100 to 2000 BCE, King Shulgi of Ur praised Gilgamesh as his divine brother and claimed descent from Gilgamesh's parents, the hero's father Lugalbanda and mother Ninsun. By honoring Gilgamesh in this way, Shulgi and other kings sought to link themselves with the prestige of Uruk's legendary ruler. Clay tablets from this period contain hymns and prayers invoking Gilgamesh as a guardian in the underworld, indicating he was venerated as a divine judge who could guide or protect souls after death. As his cult grew, so did the cycle of stories about him. Sumerian poets composed the earliest Gilgamesh tales as standalone myths and legends, written in the Sumerian language. 5 distinct Sumerian poems survive, in fragmentary form, that recount some of Gilgamesh's adventures. These works, dating as early as the 3rd dynasty of Ur era, show that Gilgamesh's heroic legacy was firmly established in Mesopotamian folklore by 2100 BCE. Notably, these early tales are not a single cohesive epic, but separate episodes of a legendary figure's deeds. Gilgamesh and Aga of Kish describes how Gilgamesh rebelled against his overlord, King Aga of Kish, and won Uruk's independence. This likely echoes historical rivalries between city-states. The tale portrays Gilgamesh as a savvy leader who outwits Aga, securing Uruk's sovereignty. Gilgamesh and Huwawa tells of Gilgamesh and his companion Enkidu venturing to the cedar forests to confront Huwawa, Humbaba, a fearsome giant appointed by the gods to guard the sacred trees. With courage and cunning, they slay Huwawa and cut down prized cedar wood to bring home, a story celebrating the hero's triumph over chaos and wilderness. Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven relates how the love goddess Inanna, Ishtar, spurned by Gilgamesh, sends a heavenly bull to punish him. Gilgamesh, with Enkidu's aid, slaughters the Bull of Heaven, incurring the god's wrath for killing a divine creature. Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld. In this dark tale, Gilgamesh loses 2 magical objects, a drum and drumstick, or puku and miku, down into the underworld. Enkidu descends to retrieve them, but breaks the strict taboos of the Netherworld and becomes trapped among the dead. Ultimately, Enkidu's spirit is allowed to briefly rise and converse with Gilgamesh, describing the grim fate of souls below. Through this story, the living Gilgamesh and the audience gain a sobering glimpse of mortality and the afterlife. The Death of Gilgamesh, a less preserved poem that appears to narrate Gilgamesh's own death and funeral rites. The gods convene and decide that, despite his mighty deeds, Gilgamesh must share the same fate as all mortals. In his final dream, Gilgamesh learns he will not be granted eternal life. This tale likely ended by affirming Gilgamesh's lasting glory, or perhaps his deification after death. These Sumerian narratives established Gilgamesh as a heroic archetype, a superhuman warrior, often described as 2/3 god and 1/3 man, who built cities, defeated monsters, and ultimately faced his own mortality. They were recited and copied in Mesopotamian scribal schools for many centuries. However, at this stage, Gilgamesh's legend was still a cycle of independent stories. It wasn't until later, in the Babylonian period, that these threads were woven into a single grand epic. As Mesopotamia's lingua franca shifted from Sumerian to Akkadian, new versions of Gilgamesh's story emerged. By the Old Babylonian period, 1800 BCE, scribes had begun assembling a connected epic about Gilgamesh in the Akkadian language. One early Akkadian poem titled Surpassing All Other Kings combined elements from the older tales into a longer narrative. Although only fragments of this Old Babylonian epic survive, it marks a transition. Gilgamesh's story was becoming a continuous saga of a hero's life and lessons. The definitive standard Babylonian version of the Epic of Gilgamesh was completed sometime around the 13th to 11th century BCE. Babylonian tradition credits a learned scribe named Sin-Leqi-Unnini with gathering and editing the epic into its classic 12-tablet form. Rather than simply copying older texts, Sin-Leqi-Unnini appears to have synthesized various sources, oral and written, and updated the story's themes to resonate with the philosophical concerns of his time. The resulting epic, known by its opening line, Sha Nakba Muru, he who saw the deep, often translated as he who saw the abyss, is a literary masterpiece that elevates Gilgamesh's tale from adventure saga to a profound human drama. In the standard Babylonian epic, Gilgamesh is introduced not just as a hero, but as a flawed human who must learn wisdom. The edited narrative emphasizes themes of mortality, friendship, responsibility, and growth. Gilgamesh begins the story as a proud and reckless young king, and only through suffering and introspection does he mature into a wiser ruler. As one scholar summarizes, Gilgamesh, although he is king of Uruk, acts as an arrogant, impulsive, and irresponsible ruler. Only after a frustrating and vain attempt to find eternal life does he emerge from immaturity to realize that one's achievements, rather than immortality, serve as an enduring legacy. In short, the epic's final form turned Gilgamesh's biography into a moral journey, one that ancient audiences could learn from, and which still speaks to readers millennia later. A towering Assyrian relief, about 5.5 meters high, from the 8th century BCE, possibly depicting Gilgamesh grasping a full-grown lion with his bare hands. Such images symbolized superhuman strength and were often associated with Gilgamesh in later Mesopotamian art. The hero's prowess in subduing wild beasts illustrated his power over the chaotic forces of nature. The epic opens by praising Gilgamesh of Uruk as a demigod of great knowledge and strength, the man to whom all things were known, and who saw mysteries and knew secret things. Yet his arrogance and tyranny are also emphasized. As king, young Gilgamesh oppresses his people, exhausting the men with endless labor and claiming droit du seigneur with brides. The gods hear the lament of Uruk's citizens and decide their overzealous king needs an equal to temper him. Thus, the goddess Aruru forms a new hero from clay, Enkidu, a wild man born of the steppe, strong as Ninurta, and innocent of civilization. Enkidu begins life living among animals, running with gazelles on the plain. To civilize this shaggy, untamed man, a temple courtesan is sent to entice him. Enkidu spends 7 days with the harlot Shamhat, learning the ways of love and human society. After this, the beasts reject Enkidu, and he fully transforms, gaining reason and wisdom like a god, but losing his wild innocence. Now aware of Uruk and Gilgamesh, Enkidu travels to confront the king, upset upon hearing of Gilgamesh's abuses. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu meet, they wrestle in a tremendous contest of strength. Gilgamesh eventually throws Enkidu, but for the first time he has met his match. Instead of animosity, the two heroes gain mutual respect. They embrace as friends, recognizing each other as kindred spirits. Gilgamesh finds in Enkidu a loyal companion who can understand him, while Enkidu finds a brother and wise leader in Gilgamesh. This profound friendship becomes the heart of the epic, transforming Gilgamesh into a better man. With Enkidu at his side, the once wayward king now seeks to prove his greatness in earnest heroic deeds. Hungry for glory, Gilgamesh proposes an audacious quest: journey afar to the cedar forest and slay its dread guardian, the giant Humbaba, Huwawa. Despite Enkidu's initial fears, for Humbaba was appointed by the god Enlil to guard the sacred cedars, he agrees to accompany his friend. The citizens of Uruk, and even Gilgamesh's mother, the goddess Ninsun, voice misgivings, yet the pair set out, determined to make a name for themselves. After traveling for days and receiving blessings from the sun god Shamash, the heroes reach the towering cedar woods. There, Humbaba, described as a ferocious giant whose roar is the flood and breath is fire, confronts them. With Shamash's divine help, sending winds to bind the monster, Gilgamesh and Enkidu manage to defeat Humbaba, chopping off his head. They level part of the cedar forest and float the logs downstream to Uruk, proud of their victory. This act, killing the forest guardian, is daring but also transgressive, and it sets in motion the destiny that will follow. Back in Uruk, Gilgamesh attracts the attention of Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, called Inanna in Sumerian. The epic relates that Ishtar is struck by Gilgamesh's beauty and heroic fame. She propositions him to be her husband, but Gilgamesh boldly rejects Ishtar's offer, listing the tragic fates of her past lovers, who were invariably cursed or destroyed by the fickle goddess. Enraged by this insult, Ishtar unleashes the bull of heaven to ravage Uruk as punishment. The bull, a celestial beast causing earthquakes and drought, wreaks havoc, killing hundreds, but Gilgamesh and Enkidu join forces to confront it. In a dramatic battle in the streets of Uruk, they manage to slay the bull of heaven, cutting out its heart and offering it to Shamash in thanks. Ishtar wails in fury as Gilgamesh flings the bull's bloody haunch at her, further humiliating the goddess. This brazen act seals their fate. In Tablet 7 of the Epic, the supreme gods Anu, Enlil, and Shamash convene and decree that for these offenses, slaying Humbaba and the bull of heaven, either Gilgamesh or Enkidu must be punished with death. Enlil insists on retribution, and the lot falls on Enkidu. Soon after, Enkidu is stricken with a wasting illness sent by the gods. For 12 days he grows weaker and suffers terrible dreams of the underworld, where he sees his own doom. Gilgamesh is helpless to save his friend. In a heartbreaking passage, Enkidu curses the door he carved from cedar, and even the trapper and harlot who drew him from the wild, for they led him to this sorrow. The god Shamash, who had favored them, rebukes Enkidu's curse, and Enkidu relents, instead blessing Shamhat for civilizing him. Finally, Enkidu dies in his friend's arms, lamenting that he must leave the world so young. Tablet 8 narrates Gilgamesh's grief. The mighty king is shattered by Enkidu's death. He clings to his friend's body for days, refusing to believe he is gone, until decay sets in. Gilgamesh then orders a grand funeral, commemorating Enkidu with rich grave goods and ritual offerings, as is due a great hero and beloved companion. The death of Enkidu is a turning point. Gilgamesh, who had never known fear, is now afraid of his own mortality. "Shall I not die also? Am I not like Enkidu?" he wonders. Realizing that all his power cannot prevent death, Gilgamesh is driven into despair, and then into action. Leaving Uruk behind, Gilgamesh dons animal skins and embarks on a quest to find immortality. His goal is to seek out Utnapishtim, a legendary figure who survived the Great Flood and was granted eternal life by the gods. If anyone knows the secret of escaping death, Gilgamesh believes, it is Utnapishtim. The journey is long and perilous, detailed in Tablets 9 and 10. Gilgamesh travels to the ends of the earth, to the Mashu Mountains where the sun sets, guarded by half-human, half-scorpion monsters. He passes under the mountains along a dark road where the sun travels at night, nearly giving up before he emerges into a radiant garden by the sea. There he meets Siduri, a wise alewife, divine tavern keeper, who advises him to abandon this futile quest and enjoy life's simple pleasures, food, drink, love, for this is the lot of mankind. But Gilgamesh, steadfast in his purpose, presses on. A ferryman, Urshanabi, eventually takes Gilgamesh across the waters of death to the distant abode of Utnapishtim. When Gilgamesh finally encounters Utnapishtim, Tablet 11, he is shocked to see that this immortal man is outwardly no different from himself. Utnapishtim patiently reveals that the gods granted him eternity only under exceptional circumstances. He then recounts the famous flood story, how the gods decided to send a cataclysmic flood to destroy humanity, but the god Ea Enki warned Utnapishtim in a dream. Utnapishtim built a great boat, an ark, and saved his family and the seed of all living things. After surviving the terrible deluge and seeing the waters subside, confirmed by sending out birds to find dry land, Utnapishtim and his wife were rewarded by the god Enlil with immortality, living forever at the mouth of the rivers far away. Having told his tale, Utnapishtim tests Gilgamesh. If the mortal hero truly desires eternal life, he should prove himself by conquering sleep, a brother of death. Gilgamesh fails this trial, falling asleep for 7 days. Utnapishtim's wife then pities Gilgamesh and persuades her husband to divulge a parting gift, the location of a secret plant of rejuvenation, a thorny herb that grows deep under the sea. This plant, says Utnapishtim, can restore youth to an old man. Gilgamesh, determined not to leave empty-handed, dives into the waters and manages to seize the miraculous plant. He plans to take it back to Uruk and test it on an old man, then use it on himself if it truly works. For the first time in a long while, hope swells in Gilgamesh. But as the epic poignantly relates, while Gilgamesh rests on his journey home, a serpent creeps in and steals the plant, shedding its skin as it slithers away, a sign that the snake is rejuvenated by it. Awakening to find his hard-won prize gone, Gilgamesh can only weep at the cruel irony. The secret of youth slips forever beyond his grasp. He returns at last to Uruk, weary but wiser, having learned the painful lesson that immortality is the privilege of the gods, and that mortals must make do with the time they are given. In the epilogue of the standard epic, a humbled Gilgamesh stands before the mighty walls of Uruk. He takes in their solid brickwork and the bustling city they protect. Realizing that his legacy lives on in the lasting works he has built and the city he has nurtured, Gilgamesh finds a measure of peace. Though he could not escape death, he will be remembered, his story and accomplishments ensuring that his name endures through the ages. In a final poetic turn, the epic circles back to its opening, urging the reader, or listener, to admire the city of Uruk and read the account of Gilgamesh engraved on a stone, the very story we have just heard, now immortalized in literature. An additional tablet 12, often appended to the epic from a later translation of a Sumerian tale, recounts a postscript where the restless spirit of Enkidu briefly returns. However, this tablet is not part of the main narrative arc and likely was a later addition. It reiterates the lesson that earthly treasures and quests have no meaning in the underworld, further underscoring the epic's themes of mortality. The Epic of Gilgamesh, after centuries of being copied and cherished in the ancient world, eventually faded from memory as cuneiform writing was forgotten. For over 2,000 years the story lay buried, until modern archaeology brought it to light. The pivotal moment came in the 1840s to 50s, when British and local Iraqi excavators, like Austin Henry Layard and Hormuzd Rassam, unearthed the ruins of Nineveh, ancient capital of Assyria. There they discovered the library of King Ashurbanipal, a treasure trove of tens of thousands of clay tablets. Among these broken tablets were copies of the Gilgamesh epic from the 7th century BCE that Ashurbanipal's scribes had collected. However, at the time, nobody could yet read them. The Akkadian cuneiform script had only just begun to be deciphered by scholars like Sir Henry Rawlinson. In the 1870s, an Assyriologist named George Smith at the British Museum took on the task of translating these mysterious tablets. In 1872, as he pieced together Tablet 11 of one particular story, Smith realized with astonishment that he was reading about a great flood, a narrative strikingly similar to the biblical tale of Noah. On December 3, 1872, Smith presented his translation of what he called the Chaldean account of the deluge to the Society of Biblical Archaeology in front of an electrified audience that included the Prime Minister of Britain. The news made worldwide headlines. The New York Times reported that this discovery is evidently destined to excite a lively controversy. Many were amazed that a Mesopotamian text written long before the Bible contained a flood story with parallels to Noah's Ark. According to observers, when George Smith grasped the significance of the find, he leapt up from his work in excitement, even beginning to remove his clothing in the thrill of the moment. The Victorian world now knew that an ancient Mesopotamian epic, older than Homer and the Bible, held profound stories about gods, a flood, and the quest for life's meaning. Smith's publication of the Epic of Gilgamesh, as it came to be known, in the following years caused a sensation. It also spurred further expeditions to Nineveh to recover missing pieces of the tablets. Smith himself traveled to Mesopotamia and succeeded in finding more fragments of the epic in 1873 before his untimely death a few years later. By 1880, scholars had a clearer but still incomplete text. Over the next century, Assyriologists like Paul Haupt, R. Campbell Thompson, and Samuel Noah Kramer continued to compile and translate the growing collection of fragments. They collated tablets from not only Nineveh but other sites across Mesopotamia and beyond. Portions of Gilgamesh were found at sites in what is now Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and even the Holy Land. Bit by bit, the epic was reassembled like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Even today, gaps remain in the poem, but modern discoveries occasionally fill in lines. In 2015, for example, a previously unknown fragment of Tablet 5 was identified in a museum in Iraq, adding new lines to the encounter with Humbaba. And in 2021, a looted dream tablet fragment of Gilgamesh, Tablet V, that had illicitly made its way to a museum in the USA was returned to Iraq, highlighting the ongoing effort to reclaim ancient heritage. By the mid-20th century, the Epic of Gilgamesh had emerged from obscurity to worldwide renown. It has since been translated into dozens of languages and studied in schools and universities across the globe. Its rediscovery was not only an archaeological triumph, but also a cultural revelation. For the first time, modern humanity could directly read the thoughts and dreams of people from over 4 millennia ago. We learned that those ancient ancestors grappled with the same existential questions we do: the meaning of life, the pain of loss, the inevitability of death, and expressed them in a majestic epic poem. Today, Gilgamesh stands as a towering figure of world mythology, often hailed as the first epic hero in literature. The Epic of Gilgamesh predates the Greek epics of Homer and almost every other known work of literature, making it a foundation of the epic genre. Its themes of heroism, friendship, and the search for immortality have resonated through the ages, influencing storytelling from the ancient Near East to the present. Elements of the epic echo in later mythologies. For instance, scholars note that aspects of Gilgamesh's quest, a paradisal garden, a boatman over waters of death, a plant of life stolen by a serpent, surface in myths and folklore around the world. Though whether by direct influence or common human imagination is hard to say, in ancient Mesopotamia, Gilgamesh's cultural impact was pervasive. He was enshrined as a deity of wisdom and judgment, with prayers addressed to him for centuries. Later, Babylonian and Assyrian kings knew the epic. Some even drew explicit parallels between themselves and Gilgamesh as empire builders or lion-slaying heroes. The epic was also a curriculum staple. Copies have been found in the ruins of scribal schools, indicating that apprentice scribes diligently copied Gilgamesh's story to learn literature and language. Beyond Mesopotamia, references to Gilgamesh appear in Hittite and Hurrian texts, translated into those languages, and his name even appears in a list of fictional kings in Greek literature by Aelian, 2nd century AD. This suggests that knowledge of Gilgamesh trickled into the classical world to some degree. In modern times, the epic's literary legacy is profound. Since its first translation, it has inspired countless works of fiction, poetry, art, and philosophy. Notable modern authors like John Gardner and Philip Roth have drawn on Gilgamesh in their novels. Poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote Gilgamesh, a Fragment, and adaptations of the epic appear in theater and opera. The story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu's friendship in particular is often cited as one of the earliest and most moving friendship narratives in literature. It has influenced how later cultures conceived hero duos. Some see echoes in stories from David and Jonathan to Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. Though these parallels arise independently, the archetype of two contrasting friends on an adventure was arguably first codified in Gilgamesh's tale. Perhaps the most enduring influence of the epic is its exploration of the human condition. Gilgamesh's realization that he cannot escape death, and his subsequent reflection on what gives life meaning, strike a universal chord. The epic's concluding message, that humans attain a form of immortality through lasting works and the memories they leave behind, is a theme that recurs in literature and philosophy up to today. It is a testament to the poem's power that readers in the 21st century can empathize with the Sumerian king's sorrow and hope, despite the vast gulf of time and culture between us. Finally, from an academic perspective, the discovery of Gilgamesh revolutionized our understanding of ancient Near Eastern mythology and its relationship to later religious texts. It provided evidence that ideas about a great flood, a paradise garden, or a hero's journey existed in Mesopotamian myth long before they appeared elsewhere. indicating a shared heritage of storytelling in the region. Though this epic was forgotten for millennia, its recovery has reconnected us with a lost chapter of human cultural history, showing how even in antiquity people pondered the same profound questions that we do. In that sense, Gilgamesh truly saw the deep. Not just the depths of the sea or the forests, but the depths of human experience. Gilgamesh's story, part history, part myth, has journeyed across 4 millennia to reach us. In life, he may have been a powerful king who built Uruk's towering walls. In death, he became a legend bigger than any mortal. The epic bearing his name is more than just an adventure tale. It is a rich tapestry of human hopes and fears. We follow Gilgamesh from youthful arrogance, through the forging of brotherly love with Enkidu, into the darkest despair of loss, and finally toward enlightenment as he accepts his place in the mortal world. Along the way, we encounter vividly drawn episodes, battles with monsters, counsel from gods, the temptation of the goddess of love, the catastrophic flood, and the serpent's theft of immortality. Each episode, while fantastical, illuminates real truths about life's transient joys and unavoidable sorrows. Reading the Epic of Gilgamesh today, we are struck by how familiar its hero's journey feels. Despite the gulf of time, we recognize Gilgamesh's emotions, his pride, his grief, his yearning to conquer death, as fundamentally human. The clay tablets on which the epic was recorded may be cracked and incomplete, but the story they carry still speaks clearly. As Gilgamesh himself ultimately learns, mortality is the fate of all humans, but through art and memory we achieve a different kind of immortality. The walls of Uruk have crumbled to dust, but the tale of Gilgamesh endures, carved not in stone alone, but in the collective cultural memory of humanity. By exploring the saga of Gilgamesh, we glimpse the dawn of literature and the timeless concerns of the human soul. It is a narrative that begins in prehistory, yet continues to captivate and teach us today. In the end, Gilgamesh did fulfill his wish for everlasting life, not in body, but in story. His name and his lessons live on, echoing down the ages, reminding us, as the epic's ancient author inscribed, to read the story of him who knew all things, he who saw the deep. Early dynastic Mesopotamian art depicting a heroic figure often identified as Gilgamesh. This carved vase fragment, circa 2600 BCE, from Tel Agrab, Iraq, shows a bearded hero wrestling 2 powerful bulls, with lions underfoot. Such imagery of the hero mastering wild beasts symbolize the might and courage of Gilgamesh, who was believed to be strong enough to overpower the forces of nature. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more fascinating stories, and ring the bell so you never miss a new episode from Cipher History. Stay curious.